You were a wonderful experience.
You were everything.
I can't be around someone who's just fueled by bitterness and negativity.
A kiss doesn't mean anything if it's dishonest.
She's not coming back, dude. She's gone.
Escapism is how a lot of us tend to deal with trauma. While some people might view cartoons as being solely for children, some of the most raw and human representations of grief I've seen has been through this medium. Maybe that's how they connect with us. Watching something just for laughs and then catching you off guard with a massive reality check. For me, something I've always struggled very deeply with has been breakups. And to deal with this type of loss, I've always turned to animation as an escape. The beauty of media like this is that it's a way for people to feel validated in their emotions, or to help them better understand what they're going through. This is something that Cartoon Network shows in particular have always been good at. Regular Show, for one, shows a side of love that's a little more toxic. After Mordecai and Margaret separate, Mordecai starts to develop feelings for CJ. Although Mordecai does truly care about CJ, he struggles to let Margaret go for good.
I really do like CJ. I'm just afraid of what'll happen because part of me is still waiting for Margaret to come back. I mean, I don't still have feelings for her, but I do in a way. It's like this thing that's inside of me, and it's always just sort of sitting there, waiting around. And sometimes I'll see something, or I'll smell something, and it makes me think of her, even though I don't want to. I really like CJ, she's amazing. But is it fair for me to go out with her if I still think about Margaret sometimes?
If you're someone who has been in multiple relationships, you might find this love triangle dynamic to unfortunately be very relatable. After a breakup, instead of taking the time to heal and learn from that experience, people tend to jump into new relationships far before they're actually ready to. Even if Mordecai's feelings for CJ are genuine, his emotional immaturity takes him down a path of burning bridges and causing the same pain that he once felt to the people he cares about.
You're single, you dated Mordecai for a while, and you keep trying to hang out with him, even though you don't have to, because it's not like you kept in touch with him after you left.
Mordecai.
Learning that you require the time to heal and mature as a person is one of the most useful lessons that you can learn. And that doesn't just go for relationships, but many struggles you might go through in life, so you don't make the same mistakes over and over. If you know someone who might be going through something, sometimes they don't need you to feel the need to give them advice. Sometimes they just want you to be there for them, even if you aren't saying anything.
Yo, you take Margaret to the airport?
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
No.
Hello, I'm doing the obligatory subscription request. If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, it helps out a lot, and I would like to keep making videos like this. While nobody's perfect, Regular Show did a good job of showing what it's like to be the one in the wrong in a situation like this, and how complicated relationships can get. Regardless of who Mordecai truly loved, if he had just been fair to his own feelings and those of Margaret and CJ, maybe things would have turned out differently. Similarly, you have a relationship like BoJack and Wanda's. I know that Mordecai wasn't being fair in his own relationship, but if you've seen BoJack Horseman, you'd know that he's kind of on another level of selfishness. While BoJack does have good traits of his own, and he did love Wanda to an extent, he's a perfect example of someone who just isn't capable of change. When you love someone, you'll wait for them to change their behavior, because you figure that if they truly love you, then they'll do everything in their power to keep the relationship alive. And while some people are capable of that, it's just not always the case.
I can't be around someone who's just fueled by bitterness and negativity. What happened, BoJack?
Same thing that always happens. You didn't know me. Then you fell in love with me. And now you know me.
While it's always important to give people a chance, you can't wait for people like BoJack, or you're risking getting yourself hurt in the process. If you need proof of the kind of person BoJack is, look at what he does immediately after he and Wanda break up. He simply runs away from his problems once again, somehow managing to hurt even more people through his actions. In the Simpsons episode, Lisa's Date with Destiny, Lisa proves my point of why it's important to know when enough is enough. Lisa knew who Nelson was going into their relationship. She gave him a chance, seeing something in him that nobody else did. But Nelson breaks her trust for the final time.
You lied to me.
Nuh-uh.
There, you did it again.
All right, I lied. I'm sorry. Let's kiss.
No, you don't understand, Nelson. A kiss doesn't mean anything if it's dishonest.
Lisa makes the wise choice to step away from that relationship. Lisa didn't hate Nelson, she simply understood that they just weren't compatible. She is who she is, and he is who he is, and that's okay.
I was foolish to think I'd actually changed you. Maybe I was seeing things in you that weren't really there.
Definitely.
Relationships don't always have to end in rage and spite. It's okay to leave a relationship with a mutual understanding. If you have the option to be the bigger person, then do it. Sometimes it's just not worth causing yourself more unnecessary pain, just in the pursuit to hurt the other person in spite.
Well, I guess this is it.
You mean like goodbye?
Let's just call it smell ya later.
In regards to people like Mordecai or BoJack, you have someone who's on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and is ironically more emotionally mature than most of these characters, that being Butters. In the South Park episode Raisins, Stan and Butters represent two very different reactions to heartbreak. After Wendy breaks up with Stan, he experiences true heartbreak for the first time. He goes down a path of self-destruction, joining the wrong crowd and becoming someone he's not. It's circumstances like these that serve as triggers for people to feed into bad habits. You can't let pain control what you do. The further you go down that path, the harder it becomes to climb out of it. Butters represents what it's like to have a real understanding of your emotions.
Alexis, what are you saying? Are you saying you don't want to be together anymore?
It's not surprising given all of the things Butters has been through, perfectly demonstrating why it's important to go through hardship every now and then, so that eventually you learn to deal with trauma in a healthier way.
And I'm sad, but at the same time I'm really happy that something can make me feel that sad. It's like, it makes me feel alive, you know? The only way I can feel this sad now is if I felt something really good before. So I have to take the bad with the good.
My personal favorite representation of love and heartbreak through animation would be that of Simon and Betty. You might be able to relate to having been in love with someone who you were convinced you'd be with forever. Simon and Betty took a risk on each other, and for a while it paid off. They brought the best out of one another, and together they grew as people. The problem though is that at the same time, they were also growing apart, without them even realizing until it was too late. Neither of them are the villains in the story. They both loved each other, they both cared for the other, neither of them wanted it to end. The issue and cause of their separation was more or less because both of them were neglecting their own needs for the sake of the other. They weren't toxic, they simply stopped trying. They didn't communicate, and their relationship suffered because of it. In the end, regardless of who did what wrong, the lessons that you should take away from Simon and Betty is that of acceptance and reflection. Simon ate away at himself because he thinks that he's the reason why he's no longer with Betty. But as is the case with most relationships, it's more nuanced than that. Betty wouldn't have wanted Simon to waste his life living with regret. Instead, she tells him that she doesn't regret a single thing.
We made our choices. We could have made better ones, but I don't have any regrets.
They accept what their situation is. Instead of leaving on a note that leaves both of them in pain, they leave on a mutual understanding that while they will always love each other, they need to stop living in the past. They need to live their own lives and make their own decisions so they can be happy even if they're apart. They learned a lot from each other, and now they'll go on to be better for it.
You were a wonderful experience.
You were everything.
I hope you enjoyed this video. It's content like this that's always been really therapeutic for me, so I hope in some way I was able to help you too, whatever you may be going through. Breakups are some of the most painful things that someone can experience, and a lot of the time, people shut their friends and family away. So regardless if you know if someone is struggling or not, please just make sure to check on the people you care about. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.